Manager, and in typical fashion, I will give a brief summary of this evening's agenda, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home this evening. We have a number of action items on the agenda, as well as a number of review items for the board to consider, including a presentation and action on Ordinance 22-02, which will authorize the incurring of non-electoral debt, a bond issue, and that will be a presentation for the board, as well as an action item. Also, the board will take action on bids for mini basins, a litany of mini basins for the sewer improvements project, and that's a bid opening that will be presented by Mr. Weaver. Next, the board will take action on an application for payment with the 2021 Lower Paxton Township paving project, followed by a presentation by the Public Safety Director on a letter of intent to the Governor's Center requesting technical assistance to conduct a study on fire and emergency medical services. Next, the board will take action on a number of subdivision and land development items, including a preliminary and final land development plan for the self-storage facility. Also, action to approve another final subdivision plan for the Huntley phases 2 through 5 subdivision, as well as finally improving a number of improvement guarantees and the payment of township and authority bills. With all that said, the members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. We'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand, and Supervisor Judd will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to approval of minutes of the October 5th, 2021 budget workshop and business meetings. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the October 5th, 2021 Board of Supervisors business meeting and budget workshop.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
I'd like to announce the Board of Supervisors did meet in executive session prior to this meeting and will do so following. Now is the time set aside for public comment. Public comment is a time for making comments on an item that is not on the agenda tonight. If you're here to speak to an agenda item, we will have public comment on that item at that time. So is anybody here who would like to speak to the board about an item not on the agenda? Yes, sir. If you would please come to the podium and give us your name and address.
My name is Ron Reeder, 6447 Snavely Court, Harrisburg 17111. I'm just here this evening. The Huntley development, their final plan is on the agenda for phases 2 to 5. And it's my understanding that Huntley, there is ground there for the relocation of Conway Road to bring it down to, I think it's a T intersection on Union Deposit Road. And all I'm doing is requesting, there's a number of neighbors, but most of those couldn't make it tonight, is that we find out when the township may possibly get that on the construction agenda. As there's more and more traffic coming through on Conway Road, and there's been quite a number of close calls. People coming up off of Nye Road seem to think that that's a speedway up through there. So we're requesting to find out when the township may or may not have it on the construction agenda to relocate that part of Conway Road.
You say that's part of a plan that's going to be discussed tonight?
Well, it's been ground that's been committed to the township. It's just I believe it's just a matter of if it's on the construction budget. If it is, when may that road be, when we might be able to look forward to seeing that happen?
Okay. Mr. Gottschall, could you make a note and we'll check on that, unless you happen to know the answer offhand?
I do not know anything
Okay.
about that. I'll have to get back to
Yeah, we will check into it, sir, and we have your information here. We'll get back to you on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board on an item not on the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll now go to chairman and board member comments. Board members, do we have any comments? Mrs. Lindsay?
I don't.
No, what?
Quiet.
You're
Things
our
are quiet.
designated commentator.
No. It's too cold. Things are
Too
quiet.
cold. Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? With that, the manager's report.
Yes, sir, members of the board. While I can't provide any information on Conway Road, I can give an update on the McIntosh Road Bridge project.
Okay, good.
Construction on the bridge abutments is ongoing, with bridge beams to be set in early March, followed by the construction of concrete deck, and finally the roadway approaches in mid-April. Roadway is planned to open the middle of April, or the middle or the end of April, and that at that time will also end, obviously, the time-extended detour, which has been in place for an ongoing duration of time. And that will also end the project again sometime targeted by the end of April. And we continue to monitor that project and put updates on the website and notify residents as we get that information. The next item is the local Knights of Columbus have generously come forward with a $1,500 donation to, as well as a commitment to provide a staged photo booth for pictures with the Easter Bunny at this year's Easter Extravaganza Hop-Along. And that event will take place on Saturday, April 9th from 11 to 1 p.m. at Brightville Park. It is also worth noting that the Community Engagement Committee has also providing a $50 each commitment to the first 20 nonprofit organizations that register to participate in the event, as a thank you to those organizations and also as a way to help defray costs. So we thank the committee for that as well. And with all that said, I have nothing further to report.
Okay, thank you. We have no items under old business, so we will now move right into new business. First, we will have a presentation and action on Ordinance 22-02, this authorizing the incurrence of non-electoral debt by the issuance of general obligation bonds. And Tom is going to put that into English for us.
I'm going to summarize the draft ordinance that has been presented to you, hopefully in your agenda packets for this evening. Yes, good evening. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Tom Smida. I'm from the law firm of Meddy Evans Woodside. It's been my privilege to have served you as bond counsel for the last 20 years, actually. Tonight, you're considering an ordinance styled 2202, which will authorize the incurrence of general obligation debt in the maximum amount of $25 million. Sometimes it's referred to as the not-to-exceed amount. And the reason that it's $25 million is because it's going to encompass a number of projects, a storm sewer improvement and remediation project. There's some vehicle acquisition, and we're also going to be refinancing an existing Penvest loan. And the $25 million is to give the underwriters and our financial advisor the ability of settling and negotiating on the best terms for that debt. And that, notwithstanding that, again, this is general obligation debt, but significant portions of this, in an amounts to be determined once the numbers are finalized, will be subsidized through agreements with the Lower Paxton Township Authority. They will devote the revenues from the system, from both the stormwater system and the sewer system, in the case of the Penvest loan that we're going to refinance, to pay that debt service. The township will have GO debt with respect to the vehicle acquisition portion of the debt. The ordinance itself, as you've probably heard many times, is a general obligation, meaning you're pledging your full faith in tax and credit. In other words, the bondholders come to you first and not to the authority. You are authorizing the submission to the Department of Community and Economic Development of an application to become bound by general obligation debt. It authorizes the filing of a transcript, including a borrowing base certificate, a debt statement, and application, and the appropriate subsidy application. It provides certain terms and conditions for the award of the sale of the bonds to two firms this evening. It's Benning and Scattergood and Raymond James Associates. They're acting as co-underwriters. They're going to go out and sell and market the bonds for you. And in the package that requires execution this evening are the pages for that bond purchase agreement. And again, that is based on a not to exceed number of $25 million, the ultimate amount to be determined after they go into the market. The ordinance provides for certain requirements under the Internal Revenue Code. In other words, prohibiting you from taking the proceeds from the bond issue and investing it at a higher yield than what you're paying. And it also provides for certain requirements under the Securities Acts and continues your pledge to continue what the township has already been doing for the last 7 or 8 years now, and that's called continuing disclosure. You are required to report certain events to a system called EMMA in the event that these occurrences happen, but you also are required on an annual basis to file your audited financial statements. That's some thumbnail sketch. We could go on for hours.
You've gotten really good at keeping that down to 5 minutes, Tom.
Well, I could go on longer if you
No. We've been this road a number of times, so board members, do we have any questions for Mr. Smida?
I don't have one for Mr. Snyder, but Mr. Weaver. How far out is this going to take us with the sewer? Like how many years before we'd have to come back and borrow again?
So for stormwater, Tom and Jay.
For stormwater, I'm sorry.
Yes, Tom and Jay require us to do a 3-year spending plan. So this ordinance, under the project's definition, basically encompasses a 3-year spending plan, and that is to cover the end of your MS4 permit for 23, 24, 25 for the pollution reduction plan. And then the stormwater replacement systems are part of the sewer project. So the sewer projects, you have to replace the stormwater. That's a separate fund because you have to pave the street. So we coordinate the stormwater project with the sewer project. So that's basically what the authority sees under their consent order for sewer replacement. So this 3-year spending takes you out to 2025, and then the stormwater fee pays for all this through the self-liquidating debt. And this is in the authority's rate schedule. So this debt service that's paid for this debt is already projected out.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right?
Other questions? Any public question or comment? Okay, thank you, Mr. Smida. With that, seeing no additional questions, we do need to take action on ordinance 22-02. Would there be a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve action on ordinance 22-02, authorizing the incurring of non-electoral debt by the issuance of general obligation bonds as presented by Mr. Smida.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. The ordinance is approved. Thank you, gentlemen. Jay, you had a really light evening. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate both your help. We now need to move to item 9B. We need to take action on bids for the plethora of mini basins referenced earlier by the township manager. This for sewer improvement projects. Mr. Weaver.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll just do a brief introduction of the project, and then Melissa Smith from GHD will provide a review of her bid recommendation letter for the board. The township opened bids on January 21st. I have the minutes in there. The bid specifications were prepared in conformance with the township procurement policies. You can see that the engineer's estimate for the project is $18.5 million. Dolly Construction, who's currently doing our BC2 project, was the low bidder, $18,886,489.20. And the second low bidder was Michael F. Ronca and Sons Incorporated, and their bid was $23,221,000. The bids were reviewed by staff and engineer, and again, Dolly's doing a project for us currently. We have no problem with them. One of the frustrations is we only got 2 bids. There's an explanation for that. These projects that are this big, there's a limited amount of contractors can get bonding. And the rumor on the street is that Dolly is bidding these things so low, you can see the difference between the bids, that a lot of bidders just walk away from it and think that Dolly is going to beat them. So I talked to the owner, and he didn't have any issues with his bid. He did make the comment that he enjoys the relationship, the extended relationship they've had with Lower Paxton and the authority, and this is why they bid it as they do. So I'll let Melissa give a detail of the bid tab and GHD's recommendation.
Thank you.
Evening.
Good evening.
Well, Bill kind of stole a lot of my thunder there. But he's correct. You know, we reviewed all the documentation that Dolly sent. Everything's in order.
Can you pull the microphone a little closer to you? Thank you.
Sorry about that. We reviewed all of Dolly's documentation that they submitted with their bid. Everything's in order. I did go back to them because the joint water obstruction and encroachment permit from DEP is still outstanding. And I got information from them, a signed document from them saying that they understand that permit's still outstanding, and they won't come back for a time extension or a change order for a cost because of it. That permit's been in DEP's hands for quite a while. We're still trying to get some kind of deadline from them on when it will be submitted, but there is a large portion of this project that can be done that's not covered under that permit. Everything in the streets is not covered under that permit, so it won't stop them from starting whenever they need to. And as Bill was saying, it was a little bit surprising there was only 2 bidders, but I think he's right on the money there with the fact that Dolly does bid these a little bit lower. They do like working with you guys, and it's a little bit cheaper for them too because they're already here. They just kind of move. So their mobilization's a lot less than it would be for some of these other contractors that are coming in new. And other than that, I don't really have anything extra. So.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, in addition to Melissa's comments, just so the board's aware, GHD did up their engineer's estimate. If we would have bid this project 3 or 4 years ago, the difference in the bid would have been about $700,000, and that's just the increase in pipe costs for stormwater pipe and sewer pipe has gone up from $2 to $3 a foot up to $10 to $15 a foot. So we are really happy with the low bid because the cost of pipe we hope will come down, but unfortunately we got hit with the COVID in the supply chain, and it has affected these bids. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that.
There's a little that COVID has not affected, unfortunately. Board members, any questions?
They're usually pretty good on time too, aren't they, Bill?
Dolly?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, they have a pretty strong workforce. So when they come, they make a mess, which the public doesn't like. But the good part is they get into the neighborhood and get out quickly. Other contractors take a little longer. So that's you take the good with the bad. So the good is they come in the neighborhood, get out pretty quick, and they are getting better at addressing the punch list items. So we don't have any complaints.
I was just gonna say, so and their work is quality work. You guys inspect it, you're looking at it.
So, we actually can document the quality of work. So the quality is determined by the metering results. So after the project's over,
So then we have
GHD and our staff look at the flows, and we're getting 85, 90%
lower it is.
removal,
Yep.
and it's based on their work. So yeah,
Okay,
we
and
have.
they're- and that's looking good.
Yep.
And
Okay.
the only time, of course, we hear from the residents is generally when maybe something didn't go perfectly right with somebody's property.
It's normally
pretty rare.
the destruction of the whole neighborhood. It's pretty much, we tell them in the public meeting the streets are destroyed and their yards dug up, and they ask when their yard's going to be restored, when's the road going to be paved. So we just tell people to be patient, that when it's done, they're going to have brand new storm and sewer and a brand new street. So it just takes a while to get from neighborhood to neighborhood. But we do have what's called a work zone area, so there is a method to how they proceed on the project.
Because when we hear about them,
Yes.
it's only when, like, an individual,
Right.
sometimes things just come up.
Mm-hmm.
And we had worked on one particular problem, I don't know if you remember it, but there was an issue with some of the work they did. Sometimes they run into just a challenging piece of property.
Right.
Where they
Yeah,
have
well,
to do
anytime you're digging utilities and you're going as deep as they are and there's multiple utilities they're doing, it's going to be messy. And that's why we tell people to be patient that, the restoration will be done.
And so the record for you, as someone who's done
Yeah.
enough of these things, the record's good.
It is, yes.
How many of these have you done? How many of these mini basins have you done? Do you
Actually, we just reported that as part of the authority report into DEP. We've done over 25
Wow.
in the last, since starting in 2004, the total replacement, yeah.
And how many remained?
It's unknown. We're going to do an analysis in 2024 to the authority to compare storage versus sewer replacement. Right now, the removals that we're just talking about are higher than we anticipated, so we expect to continue replacements through 2033 instead of storage. And you get to benefit the township of new streets. So to answer your question, that's unknown, but a guess would be somewhere around 10 to 15 left between now and the next 12 years. Yeah.
Wow. Takes a long time.
It does.
Board members, any other questions? All right. Thank you. That being the case, we need to take action on the bids. Is there a motion to award this bid to Dolly?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we award the bid to Dolly Construction in the amount of $18,489,020 for mini basins BC 7A, BC 7B, BC 7C, BC 7D, BC 8C, and BC 8D sewer improvements project.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. And now we need to take action on application for payment number 5 and change order number 1 from Penzi Supply. This for the 2021 paving project. Speaking of road paving, Mr. Godshall, anything out of the ordinary here?
No, sir. This is a fairly routine action item. These are final action items, both the application for payment number 5 and also change order number 1. Basically, in summary, the initial contract, the initial project contract amount was in the amount of $1,450,433.43, and after a change order, which you see in front of you here, which reconciled the bid amounts with the actual in the street project verified quantities, the amount ended up being $1,409,883.60. So a good savings there on that project. Pay app number 5 authorizes payment in the amount of $216,327.25 to the contractor Penzi Supply. And this information has been reviewed by the township engineer and staff and is recommended for approval.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the application for payment number 5 and change order number 1 from Penzi Supply for the 2021 paving project. I believe that was $216,327.25.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, we now move to 9D. We need to take action to authorize the submission of a letter of intent to the Governor's Center for Local Government Services. We are going to be requesting technical assistance to conduct a study on fire and emergency medical services, and we have Director Koshiba with us. Board, we have discussed this quite a bit, but Mr. Koshiba might want to give us a brief update. Director?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. So this is our letter of intent to get DCED's involvement in the process. We've also recently put out an RFP for private companies to give a cost analysis for an independent study as well. What this will do is it'll set this township up for planning for the future, both in short, medium, and long-term goal, long-range planning. And it'll prepare us in the fire service to better address the needs of the volunteers, the needs of the township residents, and hopefully improve the overall fire and EMS as a whole. And this framework will then be the vehicle that moves us in that right direction, I believe.
Board members, any questions?
So what happens after this? We're requesting the technical assistance.
So yes, this is our first step with DCED. After this, they'll put us on an agenda and give us some acknowledgement on whether or not they're going to be able to absorb the project that we're asking to encounter with our study and the magnitude of our study. They'll then solicit feedback and hopefully proceed. And to the next step would be to hire on their end those individuals that would be required as far as professionals to give an analysis of the overall project here as far as EMS and fire.
Do we have a timetable for that? Just, it's very exciting, so I
Yes,
know you
so
don't
it's-
have all the answers. I just know that this is a big deal.
I thought it was a very aggressive timetable on my part, but I was told it's really not. I'm hopeful that we can have this study completed by the end of this year.
Wow, that would be great.
That's good.
I was just really wondering when we would know the next step. That's where, as far as when does it move forward? When does the studying begin? That's what I was wondering.
So we have some deadlines set forth with the RFP that we sent out, and those timeframes, I don't have them in front of me, but they're relatively quick within the next couple months, and this will also give DCED time to respond to our needs as well. And the idea is to run these two parallel and see what best suits the needs of the township, whether it's through state funding, if you would, to address this, or if we need a more in-depth study that they're not quite capable of giving us. So we're waiting for those RFPs to come back and see what the results of those are as well.
Thank you.
And all the money's been budgeted for this, Adam, through the whole.
Yes, it has.
And I might point out, this is one of 3 major planning initiatives we are undertaking this year. So 2022 is a year of planning, which I guess makes next year a year of action.
Yes.
We hope.
Yes.
Any questions? Any more questions for the director? Okay, Director, thank you. With that, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we authorize the submission of a letter of intent to the Governor's Center for Local Government Services requesting technical assistance to conduct a study on fire and emergency medical services.
A motion is on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. This now takes us to subdivision and land development. Our first item is we need to take action to approve a preliminary and final land development plan for a self-storage facility. Mrs. Zerby, good to see you here this evening.
Good evening.
Any setup for this?
Yes, well, this is the preliminary final land development plan for the self-storage facility. It proposes to develop a 14.53 acre lot located east of Elderberry Lane and along Allentown Boulevard into a self-storage facility. The property is in the light industrial zoning district. The self-storage facility proposes the construction of a 3-story, 30,000 square foot per story storage building, RV storage, parking spaces, and associated site improvements, which will include parking, loading docks, and stormwater facilities. 2 additional 1-story storage buildings will be constructed at a later date. The site will be served by public sewer and water, and the plan was approved at the January 5th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant has requested 3 waivers that staff supports. There are 3 administrative comments to be satisfied and 4 general comments to be satisfied prior to recording. And I believe Elliot Shibley is here to address any comments the board may have.
Okay. Sir, if you would please come to the podium. Name and address, please.
As Amanda stated, my name is Elliot Shibley. I work at Integrated Consulting. We're located at 430 North Front Street in Wormleysburg. So this plan was actually before you back in January of 2020, I believe, or 2019, as a 100,000 square foot warehouse. The client has since changed the plan. We're going forward with a self-storage facility. The larger building on the left side of the sheet is a climate-controlled facility. As Amanda stated, it's 30,000 square foot per floor, 90,000 square foot total. And initially, we're going to be doing the RV enclosed storage on the northern side of the site with the 2 additional 1-story enclosed storage facilities at a later date. I'm happy to entertain any questions. I believe most of this stuff is consistent with the original plan. Stormwater is already in, most of the site is currently stabilized, and most of the earthwork is already completed.
I guess the only question I had, the residents had no issue with the warehouse. Have they been notified that you're going to be changing the design out there, going into the storage?
So with the original warehouse plan, we did have one neighbor reach out, and we worked with him to provide some additional evergreen screening. There were some concerns on truck idling, and a lot of that has actually been addressed, and the situation has improved since the warehousing. So we actually extended the evergreen screening further west. Lighting will actually be less impactful. Most of the self-storage facilities nowadays have motion sensor lighting, so they'll flick on above the door, and then 5-10 minutes later, when there's no activity, they'll turn off.
So is there still a warehouse component, or this is
No.
now completely?
This is all,
Different.
this will all be self-storage.
Because I spoke with that resident, and that really was a large part of his concern, was the trucks at all hours.
Yep.
So really, that's not an issue now.
No, and this will have limited access. I think 10 p.m. is the latest time that an employee will be there, and I think individuals will have access up until midnight, and then again at 6 a.m. So there was no activity in that time.
And he did have issues with buffers and trees and stuff, and you said you did accommodate at least some of those?
Yes. Are you able to switch to the landscape plan? I believe it's either 7 or 8. Actually, this is it. Yeah, so you can see that line of circles right there is actually a large evergreen buffer, which we extended further west. And so that'll remain in place. We did that for the warehousing, but then that was extended about 100 feet further west.
Well, it's appreciate you doing that and engaging with him. He's I live a few blocks away from that, and he was concerned and very, I think, sincere and very cordial. And I think that there were a lot of emails back and forth, and
Yes,
just to the extent that you accommodated him, I appreciate it.
certainly. Yeah, we sat down with him, I think, on one occasion and got a lot of these items worked out early on.
Great.
Are the other residents aware of it's going to be changing also?
We have not specifically reached out to additional residents. I know this was posted for the Planning Commission meeting in early January. We didn't have any attendance then, but we haven't specifically sent letters or plans out to adjacent neighbors.
I think most people would be probably
Well,
happy.
I would think,
Yeah.
yeah, not to have the warehouse.
And I think that really was the only one resident that I had heard from.
This is much lower impact
Yeah.
than the warehouse.
Much.
Less
Yes.
traffic.
You moved in the right direction.
Yes.
How many storage units total, and what size are they?
So there is a large mix of units, and as of right now, only the RV enclosure is actually detailed out, and the mix in the building is being worked out as we speak. But currently, there's around 800 different self-storage units, and they're a range of different sizes, as small as 5x5 to as big as 10x40.
Wow. I guess there's still a need for people's junk.
Yes.
Yeah. Do any of those units have electricity?
That I actually don't know. The self-storage building to the west, that will actually be climate controlled, which based on the market analysis, there aren't very many climate controlled facilities in the area.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Yep.
With that, is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the final subdivision plan, that we approve a preliminary final land development plan for the self-storage facility known as Plan 1909.
So moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. And now we need to approve a final subdivision plan for Huntley Phases 2 through 5. Mrs. Zerby again.
Yes, the final subdivision plan for Huntley Phases 2 through 5 involves a total tract of 75.6 acres to be developed in accordance with the plan. Phases 2 through 5 will consist of 81 single-family detached dwelling lots and 2 open space lots. The site is in the traditional residential neighborhood district and will be served by public sewer and water supply. No new waivers have been requested for the plan, and the plan was approved at the December 1st, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. There are 4 administrative comments and 4 general comments to be satisfied prior to recording. And I believe Mr. Tim Malott from Malott Engineering is here to address any comments.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Tim Malott, Malott Engineering. Also here this evening is John Kirshner with Fine Line Homes. Appreciate the presentation. I believe most people are probably familiar with this property, and happy to answer any questions you might have specifically.
Board members, do we have any questions on this? Somewhat of a familiar plan. No board member questions? Public questions, comments? Boy, you're getting off really easy tonight. You must have done a very thorough job up front.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. All right, with that, you may be seated, and is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve a preliminary final land development plan. Whoops, sorry, wrong one. Action to approve a final subdivision plan for Huntley Phases 2 through 5.
Motion is on the table. Is there, or on the floor? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. That now takes us to improvement guarantees, of which I believe there are 3. Any questions or comments relative to the improvement guarantees?
I just had one, Mr. Chairman. I'm not too sure if this is for Amanda or for Mr. Stein, or in the Memorial Eye. Does that mean that they're putting in the sidewalk?
That means they are extending again because the sidewalk is not in.
Okay. Is there a motion then to approve the improvement guarantees?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the improvement guarantees for Grove Road property, Holy Name of Jesus, Memorial Eye Institute.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposing Memorial Eye.
Okay. So 4 ayes and 1 nay. That then takes us to the payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve payment of the bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Board members, Mr. Manager, Mr. Assistant Manager, Mrs. Zerby, anybody have any further announcements? Seeing none, the next meeting of this Board of Supervisors will be a workshop meeting, which will take place 1 week from tonight, which will be Tuesday, February 8th at 7 p.m. here in this room. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.